Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show, our usual Monday night roundup here, looking back at the weekend's action for all of our region sides. And of course, tonight's goings on in the Championship as well. I'm Chris Bell, delighted to say, joined as ever by Stephen Downs, Lewis Sale, and Gareth Walker. How are we all doing, gents?
Fantastic.
All right, mate. Thank you.
All well. Lou, I'll come to you because I know you're also watching it as well. The Leeds United game, of course, kicked off at 8 o'clock. A big game at Bramall Lane against Sheffield United. We're not going to have Brownie and Jay with us this evening. They will be on at 10:15 tonight with a full roundup and review of the game. But Lou, starting with you for the Leeds game that's, as I say, just kicked off. No Ampadu for Leeds United and Hamer on the bench for Sheffield United are kind of the big stories out of the starting lineups.
Yeah, I must admit I'm surprised Hamer being on the bench. I think Ampadu will be a loss, and I was listening to some of the pre-match as well just before, saying he could potentially be out for a few games as well, which will be a massive blow for Leeds. I think Sheffield United will probably possibly show a little bit more grit, probably a little bit less respect than what they may have done at Ellen Road early in the season. But I think, Leeds should be riding the crest of the wave after that win against Sunderland. And ironically, it's one of those situations, and I don't know, it seems to be one of those odd quirks that seem to happen. Sometimes if you win your game in the last minute, for whatever reason, it seems to come back to bite you on the backside the week after it kind of happens. So I don't know if that will happen tonight, but I think regardless of any kind of result, I think Leeds are fine. I think we could lose tonight and still win the league. But I think this is probably, actually, weirdly enough, probably a little bit more important for Sheffield United to push them top two of Leeds and Burnley. But listen, I think it'll be an interesting game. I think it'll be a little bit tasty. But I think Leeds missing Ampadu and Farker on the touchline, I think will hurt them a little bit tonight.
Well, Downsy clearly can't stand the Leeds talk already. He's disappeared, but hopefully we'll get him back in due course. So we'll turn to you guys. And Bradford City, another win. What was it? 9th home win on the bounce for Graham Alexander's side. And I mean, let's not shout too loudly, but things continue to go fairly smoothly for Bradford.
Yeah, it's a club record, I believe, or equal the club record. I think they've done it once, if not twice before, so they will break that record if they beat Cheltenham at home next Tuesday. We played pretty well on Saturday. I said in my little post-match video that I did, we're just playing really, really well at the moment. We're playing some really nice football. MK Dons came and played as you'd expect them to play, some pretty passing football, but had nothing in the box at either end, to be honest. Really woeful at the back. Every time we went forward, we looked like we were going to score. The forward players that MK Dons had, like I said, played some really nice football until they got in the box and then just had no cutting edge in the box. But yeah, things roll on for us, and long may that continue. Tough trip tomorrow night to Bromley, where we will probably face the antithesis of what MK Dons had, in that Bromley are really direct and will play off cheek. So we're going to have to be good in other ways to what we were good on Saturday. But that's what it's all about at the moment, and just going from game to game and ticking each game off, hopefully, as we go along. But it just feels good at the moment. The atmosphere was really good on Saturday. The fans were really, really getting behind the team. The team, I don't know if you saw the celebrations when the second goal went in. Everyone's together, and it's just a really good place at the moment to be, which is different for Bradford because we haven't had that for a while. And yeah, I'm just enjoying it, and long may it continue.
Yeah, before we kind of come on to tomorrow night and to Bromley, it's one hell of a promotion race in League Two. Like from a neutral perspective, the league table is astounding. Obviously, Walsall are kind of by no means home and dry, to be fair. 8 points clear, though, at the top of League Two. Doncaster currently second on 58 points. And then Wimbledon third, Notts County fourth, Bradford fifth, all on 57. And then Port Vale on 55 as well in sixth, with Crewe on 52. So, look, there's a lot to play for, but it's nothing is certain by any stretch of the imagination, is it?
No, it was funny. I saw someone saying on Twitter, sorry, X, it's not called Twitter anymore, is it? Earlier on about how the year that we decided we're going to go for promotion, about 5 or other 6 5 or 6 other teams decide that they're going to go for promotion as well. There's no real, like you said, apart from Walsall, although their lead has been cut over recent weeks. I think they were 13, 14 points clear at one point, and now it's down to 8 or 9. They've suffered from having their strike force torn apart. Obviously, the lad that went back to Stoke, Nathan Lowe, and Jamil Matt got injured at Valley Parade, actually, but he's back now, and obviously as their captain and focal point up front, I think it's made a difference him coming back. So they've kind of steadied the ship a little bit and won the last couple of games. But after that, like you say, it's really, really tight. I think, like you said, Donny are a point above us and a couple of other teams, but they've played a game more. And Port Vale are a point or two behind us and a couple of other teams, but have played a game less. So it really could go either way. Then there's a little bit of a gap to Crewe and Salford and Grimsby. But yeah, it really is anybody's game at the moment. I keep talking about our April run because in April we've got Crewe and Notts County at home, and we've got Doncaster, Chesterfield, and Port Vale away. April month just looks like it's going to be key. If we're still up there around, like I said, hopefully we are still in with a shout of the automatics come April. It's going to be a hell of a month, and I've just been talking to a couple of lads today, planning away games in. I think I was hoping to do Donny anyway. When I was talking about doing Chesterfield and Port Vale, so. Yeah, it's just going to be a really, really hectic end to the season, and I hope that we're still in with a shout come that time.
Yeah, absolutely. On to tomorrow, as you say, Bromley, who, for a new promoted side, they kind of started as you would expect a new promoted side to kind of go, and fair to middling, lower mid-table. And recently, they've picked up some results, and they've won the last 3 on the bounce without conceding a goal against MK Dons, Fleetwood, and Harrogate Town. And they've got themselves up to outside the playoff places. I mean, it's 7 points off the playoffs, but they do sit 10th. So, as we were saying before, the way that sides can go on runs, they've shot themselves right up the table. By no means an easy game to be going to tomorrow, that trip to London.
No, there's a couple of teams. Well, we say this every year, don't we? There's normally a team that comes from nowhere to get across the playoffs. I've been sort of looking at Swindon a little bit over recent weeks because they've hit some good form. And obviously the size of the club that they have at Swindon and the experience they have with Ian Holloway in charge and the little run that they're on at the moment. But Bromley too are one of those teams that have kind of like never been they've never been, would you say, in any relegation danger. They've always been in and around mid-table. But if they can keep this run going, there's no reason to say that they can't be a team that can get across the playoffs if they keep the run going long enough. Like I say, I believe that they're a very direct side and they'll play off Michael Cheek. Obviously, their home ground, I think they've got decent home form. They're a tough place to go. The ground actually at Bromley is under redevelopment, and the away capacity has been cut to 460, I think. So there's only going to be 460. Obviously, City have sold out, but there's only going to be 460 City fans there. I believe that the home attendance, I'm not sure if that's been cut as well, but they have been asking season ticket holders if they can't make the game to contact the club so that the season tickets can be sold on, because obviously the capacity is, they're basically selling out is what I'm trying to say, most home games. Yeah. So the atmosphere should be good. Like I say, I expect them to be a totally different challenge to MK Dons. They're in good form. But our away form's not great either. Like, our home form has carried us this season to a certain extent, which has been the opposite of what's happened in other years. But we went to Newport just over a week ago. I think they'd won 4 on the bounce, and we went down to 10 men and should have won that game despite having 10 men. We played really, really well. So there's nothing to say that we can't do that tomorrow night. The worry that I have going into tomorrow night is that I imagine that there will be changes, because what we all feared happening in Anthony Sarcevic or Alex Patterson picking up an injury appeared to happen on Saturday. Alex Patterson went off injured in the first half, which is a big blow. There were also injury concerns about Critchlow and Adaramola, who both went off with what looked like knocks. Now, Graham Alexander kind of played it down a little bit in the post-match and said that he thought that all 3 were more precautionary and they should be available for Tuesday. But you would imagine, with the importance that Patterson has to the team in particular, that we probably won't be risking him. I was actually surprised on Saturday that both he and Sarcevic started the game, because they had both started the Birmingham game in the Virtue Motors Trophy on the Tuesday night. And we had been rotating them a little bit and not playing them both together. And if they've been playing 90 minutes, they've been on the bench the next game. So to see them both start 2 games on the trot, I thought was a bit risky. And it was, like I say, a concern when Patterson went off. Hopefully Alexander's right and the issue with his Achilles isn't too bad. There was a collective intake of breath near the end of the game when Sarcevic also went down, but he saw out the game and saw out the full 90 minutes. So hopefully these little niggles aren't too bad and we can keep the squad as fit as possible and carry the run going. I'm going down to Bromley. I'm looking forward to it. It's a new ground for me, obviously, because I've not been when they were in non-league. So yeah, fingers crossed we can come back with at least a point, if not 3.
Be interested to see how the development is going, because they did a lot of work a couple of seasons ago. They've got a really, really nice kind of bar area for the home fans. I don't know whether it's away friendly or not, but they've done a lot of work over the last couple of years down at Bromley, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the development continues. As for the squad, as you say, the fact that yes, you can make changes, but the squad depth seems to be there compared to previous years for City.
Yeah, we do have covered in pretty much every area apart from striker, to be honest. We only have 2 what you'd call out-and-out strikers on the books in Michael Mellon and Callum Kavanagh. Michael Mellon's had to wait for his chance because Callum Kavanagh, the team has been winning while Callum Kavanagh's been playing. Even though he's not everybody's favourite player, he's doing a job with the high press and leading that press from the front. And we are only playing 1 striker, so having just 2 hasn't been too big a deal. Tommy Lee's also been filling up there. Obviously can play that role as well. But Callum Kavanagh picks up a knock, I believe, against Newport. Actually, it might not have been either the Newport game or the game before that. He picked up a knock. I think it was the one before Newport, actually. The Tuesday night game against Accrington, he picked up a knock. And Michael Mellon came in. And even though Michael Mellon's not scored yet, he's looked the player that we hoped he'd be. Since when we signed him, obviously he was really good for Morecambe a couple of years ago. Struggled a little bit at Dundee and Stockport with injuries and for game time, but he was very impressive on Saturday. So I did everything but score. Really, I'd hand in the first goal in that he won the ball high up the pitch off the MK Dons defender and played in Sarcevic to score. He just needs a goal, but yeah, he's looked a really, really good addition in the games that he's played recently. Like I said, we do have cover in every other area, really. Obviously, we don't want Patterson and Sarcevic to miss games because they have been absolutely brilliant since coming back into the team and have been a huge part of why we've had this run since Andy Cook's been injured. You can only dream about what it'd be like if Andy Cook was in the team as well. So, yeah, we've got 3 left wing-backs. We're kind of Lewis Richards, although he's had a problem with his... dislocated his shoulder for the second time this season, so he's missed games recently, but he had been playing really well up to that point. Tyreek Wright came in to play a left wing back and then broke his nose at Birmingham on Tuesday night, and I believe felt, I don't know if Graham Alexander said headachy or dizzy. He had a few signs of concussion the next day at training, so he's going to be missing now through concussion protocol. So you've got to hope that Adam Arola didn't pick up too bad an injury on Saturday and can play tomorrow night. As the other 2 left wing backs are going to be unavailable. We've got covered at centre half now. Neil Byrne came on as a sub on Saturday. I think we've got 5 or 6 centre halves that are all fit. So there's cover there. There's cover at right wing back. There's cover in midfield. Yeah, so Smallwood, Patterson and Sarcevic are the key in that midfield area and keeping them fit. But we do have cover for everybody, which is good if we can keep them all fit.
Yeah.
And at the weekend, Gaz? Gaz?
Sorry, did you say at the weekend?
Yeah, I was going to say, not quite sure if it came through at the weekend yet.
Yeah, away at Salford at the weekend in an early kick-off. Now, Salford are a team that have also been chasing the playoffs. I believe I don't know if they're in the last, they might be just outside the playoffs at the moment. Obviously, I hark back to the game against them at the start of the season, finished 0-0. We should have won that game. Perfectly legitimate goal that was said that didn't cross the line that blatantly did. So I would love to go there and win on Saturday. Gaz. Yeah, I've not forgotten it. I would love to go there and win on Saturday. But yeah, it's going to be a tough game. All the games are tough at this time of the season. You've got most teams, particularly in League Two, are playing for something. There's not many teams that are switched off. It's a bit early for that, I suppose. But yeah, I would like to think we could pick up a minimum of 4 points out of the next two. And that's massive for me to say, because you know me, I'm pessimist at the best of times. So to be in this run of form that we're in, yes, the away form still leaves a little bit to be desired. So we've got 2 away games now. Salford obviously on Saturday and Bromley tomorrow night. So I'd like to think we can pick up 4 and stay in that hunt for the automatic promotion places.
Well, I think we can probably round City off at that, can't we? It's all been very positive. It's all unusually.
Yeah, I don't like to say too much, Chris, because obviously things are good and things can turn quickly. Obviously, we talk on this podcast about you're 2 results away from a crisis or 2 defeats away from a crisis at City at all times. So it could quickly change, but I'm enjoying it at the moment. And it was just really, really good on Saturday to see the atmosphere in the ground when the second goal went in particular. And everybody's just enjoying themselves, and that's how it should be.
I make a prediction, guys. Make a prediction. The City going up and the Town and Leeds are staying down, unfortunately.
Well, it's interesting. Before you're going to come on to Town, but he spent £3 million on a striker, and like if we go up to League One, there's no way we're going to be spending anywhere. I think our record transfer fee is 2.5 when we're in the Premier League, so we're going to be picking up free transfers and looking at wheeling and dealing like we do in League Two. So I think it's a league of 2 totally different worlds in League One, to be honest. There's those with and those without. So
you're doing it like most sensible League One clubs. That's what you'll be doing, Gaz.
Yeah, but
you'll be doing it like most sensible, normal League One clubs.
Like average, like Lincoln. But trust me, in terms of when you I want City to go up, Gaz. Obviously, not just for you, but I do like Bradford, but I can see you if you went up. I can see you being competitive, at least in the lower half of the division to start off with. There's no difference between somebody like yourself and somebody like Cambridge. I'll be honest.
It's interesting you should say that, because I remember talking to an Aki Stanley fan about 10 years ago, when we were in League One and they were promoted, they won League Two and went up as champions, and he was asking about the difference between League One and League Two, and I was saying pretty much what you've just said then, like the top half there is a big difference, but the bottom half there's not that much of a difference. I think the gap between the top and the bottom half is probably more now than it was then, just looking at the finances that such as Town and obviously Birmingham are in a different league, but Wrexham, Stockport are forking out on players. The rest of the division or the bottom half can't do that. But I would still like to believe what you said there, Downsy, that the bottom half is comparable to the top half of League Two.
Well, look at Shrewsbury. They've just taken one of your strikers on loan. You know what I mean? So it's...
Yeah. Anyway, that's getting ahead of ourselves. We've got a job to do in these 14 games, and I would absolutely love to go up automatically. There was a stat doing the rounds about how we've had so few promotions during our history compared to a lot of other teams in England. And in my time watching City, I started going in the early 90s. I think I've seen 1, 2, 3, 4 promotions, but 3 of those have been through the playoffs in 35 years. So I'd love an automatic. I've seen 1 automatic promotion in my time. I'd love to see another one.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Before we come on to Huddersfield, Lou, Leeds United, a goal down at Bramall Lane.
Yeah, a goal down, and being honest, Sheffield United have dominated the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, they're bad.
Melia looking very shaky, if I'm being honest, from crosses. But the goal has come from a cross which kind of palmed from Melia, and it's going to the path of Tyrese Campbell, who's headed against the post, and Melia's almost accidentally kind of knocked it
into his own net, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's not great.
It's great to see.
Yeah, I've just seen it now. He's hit it against the post, and Melia tries to keep it out, but his hands are just, his positioning's not great, and he's just palmed it into his own goal. And I mean, 2 minutes later, they put a long throw in, and he missed that one as well. And I think he's arguing against the referee. It's not being protected much, but yeah, I mean, the first save is a phenomenal fingertip save, but the second isn't good. And I know that Leeds fans are not the greatest fans of Melia, and that won't go down too well with him, I don't think.
I mean, to quote Phoenix Knights, he's shaking like a shitting dog. So he's absolutely like under the cosh so far, and you can see quite rightly what Chris Wilder's tactics are. Just chuck everything at Melier.
Yeah.
Hologram's gone missing again.
I'm not sure if holograms can go missing and such, but everything's gone. Yeah, it's very shaky.
You get the point, Chris. You get the point.
Speaking of shaky, let's turn to Huddersfield Town at the moment.
Do we have to?
Well, I mean, we don't have.
You want a minute
to,
review, Chris? Again? Do you want a minute? Shit,
Let's
and more shit.
See what you can do in 30 seconds, then.
No, because there is going to be a proper
winning
debate
1-0.
about it. I know that Lou does want to have his say. So obviously, I didn't go to the game because I was I was busy.
Oh, where were you?
Yeah, I was in Leeds City Centre, having a good time rather than being at the John Smith Stadium not having a good time. But yeah, we lost 1-0 to our bitter and horrendous rivals in Peterborough United. In what was the worst performance of the season. That's where I'm going off by the majority of what Town fans are saying. Even the game where we lost 3-1 to Northampton at home, this was worse than that. It was worse than the away result to Northampton as well. Just nothing in being inspired. No attacking threat at all. More injuries and just overall, just really, really a bad mood about the place, to be honest. And I can't believe that we ended the weekend still in fifth. We're still in fifth somehow. I don't really understand how we are, but yeah, from what it was a few weeks ago to what it is now, we're back at where we were when we were losing to Tamworth in the FA Cup. I
mean, you're inside the playoffs by 2 points, but that 2 points also takes you down. Well, takes the table down to Charlton and Bolton in 7th and 8th. Obviously, Reading are on 50 points, so 5 points behind. And then there's that bit of a cushion to Barnsley. I think we've said though all along that whoever were the bottom two sides in those playoff places, it was always it's always going to be difficult for them because there is always going to be sides that are chasing, and that's proving to be the case. But obviously for Town, it's been that slip from being comfortably in the top 4 and well within the playoffs to now being on a bit of a tightrope. Yeah, well, there's 3 problems I see at the football club at the moment, to be honest. One is, and I'm going to say it now from the outset, which I always have done, to be fair, I am a Michael Duff fan. I like how he speaks, but he's a stubborn manager and plays a certain way and doesn't really change the system and doesn't really solve things in games. And I think that has been evident in some of the games this season. But notwithstanding that, the injuries that we have are frightful. I mean, we don't have literally a fit centre-back at the club. Gaz was just talking a minute ago there about covering places. Gaz, if you could just loan us a centre-back for a couple of weeks, that would be fantastic. Or give us Mr. Critchlow back, who we very handily made into a nice centre-back for yourself. That'd be great. But yeah, so that was... missing Hellick? Yeah, well, yeah, we are missing Hellick, and I agree that we should have never sold him. I'm quite happy to go back on that word and say that we shouldn't have sold him. At the very least, replaced him.
We should have replaced him, and at this time, it looks like an horrendous decision to sell him. Although at the time, I said he wasn't going to sign a new deal, so it was okay to get the money that we did for him. But in the circumstances now, Tom Lees is out for what probably is going to be the rest of the season, at least 4 weeks. Bolker's injury looks apparently today in the press conference not as bad as Sturs thought, but that could turn into another 2-3 week job. Matty Pearson, we know he's out now to the rest of the season. Nigel Lomvite's only had 1 training session in 7 weeks, and that was at Wolves. Brodie Spencer has just come back off a 2-week suspension, but he's a right back theoretically and not a centre back. And Ollie Turton and Josh Ruffles haven't played very much this season. And yes, Chris, they are not traded centre backs. So the problem that we've got is we've got 1 fit centre back at the club, Nigel Lomvite, who technically isn't really that fit because he's only had 1 training session. The other 2 problems at the football club, from what I can tell, are the recruitment of players that are injury prone or just not good enough, like Freddie Ladapo. Is bad as well. And the third problem is just not like, I don't understand how we just can't see our own downfalls at times. It just amazes me how, a lot of supporters who are not, there are fans out there that do see things sensibly, and see a lot of good stuff at the club, but also have, fair criticism, and it's just not answered and not seen. But obviously we did a town talk show yesterday. Came brought up a number of points, and so did Callum. And I tried to do my best to be referee, as it were, and hold some sort of decorum in the conversation. And yeah, it was just it's an interesting debate at the moment. I think there is if you want me to give 100% split, I would say probably 25 to 30% of the fan base now wouldn't be that bothered if Michael Duff got sacked.
Wow. That is slightly alarming at this stage. Before we come to you guys, I know you've got a couple of little points you want to bring up to Downsy. We're going to answer this one on Downsy's behalf. Is Downsy getting worried that Town might miss out on the playoffs? The answer is very much a yes.
Yes.
Ian's a City fan, and he commented with a comment on City. You always miss his comments on City, Chris.
No, I usually get them, to be fair. I missed that one in amongst Ben, the Huddersfield fans, numerous comments and delight at Sheffield United beating Leeds by goals to nil. That's why I missed out Ian's earlier. So
Ben's gone mental. Ben's
best mate in there, I think.
Ben's having a night on the vodka. You can just tell.
He's Jay's best mate, apparently.
I was about to say the very first comment that came in was from Ben saying Jay's not here. I used to break times like this. And do make sure you tune in at 10:15, Ben, because I'm sure you'll have no end of fun trolling the absolute crap out of Jay and Brownie. Gaz, you wanted to talk down?
Yeah, I just wanted to say you mentioned about Duff being stubborn, Downsy, and I think that's something that I've certainly seen levelled at a lot of City managers down the years. It's something that I think fans say about managers quite a lot. I also read somewhere, it might have been you that said it actually, definitely from a Town fan, or I heard it. He has moved away from three centre halves though, hasn't he? So he has shown a little bit of flexibility in that respect. That was my first point. I got another point afterwards, but that was my first point.
Yeah. So I'll answer that. So yeah, in the last 2 or 3 fixtures, he did move to a 4-3-3 sort of system where he had Karoma on the left. He had Marshall or whoever he wanted on the right, depending on who was fit. And then he'd have normally Dion Charles as the centre forward. And then the 3 in midfield, that would technically change over time because Herbie Kane was in, but now he's injured. Ben Wiles has been the only sort of constant really in that side. And you can tell Ben is now, well, he's not the most consistent of players anyway, but he's definitely tired now because he's played the most games out of everybody. So he has been flexible, but I think, Gaz, it's come at the point where he's had to do it just because of the players that are available. And then as soon as like Sorensen's come back and he's more natural sort of wing backs, he's gone back to his old team. I mean, I don't really know why you just went back to 3 at the back on Saturday, because it's just proved to be disastrous. I mean, we ended the game literally with Kasumu at the back, who's never played at centre back before. I mean, that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So what you're saying is he changed it more out of necessity rather than desire.
Yeah, he did. But when he changed it, Gaz, the weird thing is it worked a little bit more.
Right.
So like he's gone. So it worked a little bit. We were getting a little bit more joy, and then he's gone back to 3 at the back and 5 in midfield and his old system, and we've gone absolutely to pot again.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously Duff has always been, or from what I can gather, certainly at Barnsley, he was always a 3-5-2 man, and he's stuck by that. It's a little bit like Amarim at United, sort of persisting with it, despite the fact that it doesn't appear to be working.
Yeah.
My other point I wanted to bring up was at the start of the season, there seemed to be an expectation, or should I say, a lot of Town fans thought that you should be going for autos. Some of you were saying that they'd been happy with the playoffs. Where were you at the start of the season, Downsy? Did you think that you were an automatic promotion side, or did you think you were a playoff side? And if you were to finish in the playoffs now, would that keep Town fans happy? Or would they say, no, we've been on this run now and it's just not good enough?
Well, I'll be honest. If you go back to the videos at the start of the season, I was saying we should be challenging for top 2. I'm not gonna deviate it because the evidence is there. If people want to go back and watch it, that's what I said.
I was just trying to remember what you said in the League One preview show that we did when we had all the various fans from different clubs on.
I said
minimum top 6 at the time. To be fair, I think you said minimum playoffs.
Yeah, I did say minimum playoffs, but there was an expectation that we wanted top 2. Now the chairman said, Mr. Nagel, he said right at the start of the season, it's either top 2 or everything below that is unacceptable.
Right.
Now that when you have your chairman and your owner saying that at the beginning of the season, that then creates an expectation within the fan base, right? Well, he's A, going to spend some money, which he did do, and B, there's going to be, this is it. We're going for it. He's going out for broke. Now, Birmingham went and spent what they did. We were never going to catch them, and it looks like they're going to win the league at the canter. I still think and I still maintain that this squad, when it's fully fit and it's firing and playing in, fair enough, in a Duff system that they all understand and they want to work in, I still think we're the second best team in the league. I do. When you've got, Taylor firing, Charles firing, you've got a fit midfield, everybody's fit. Wrexham aren't better than us, and I don't think Wickham are either. But that's not the case, and we haven't had that for the majority of the season. He's only been able to pick his first best 11 and take Hellick out of it. Say if you replaced Hellick with Pearson, he's only been able to pick the best side at Huddersfield Town Football Club 9 times this season. Only 9. And even them 9 games have been broken, even in the unbeaten run. Like a lot of them games have become draws. And the other thing I'd say, which I did think, Kane and Callum said a good point on yesterday, was I can't count on my 2 hands the amount of good performances Town have had. We've had good results, but we haven't had good performances.
Well, you've just said there that you'd top 2 if you have everybody fit and available. But I would totally agree that the chairman saying that basically it's top 2 or nothing just heaps even more expectation and pressure on everybody. Yeah. But if you're saying that when everyone's fit and available, we're top 2, the fact of the matter is you've just said that that's only been the case for 9 games. So the fact that for the rest of the season they've not been fit and available, does that mean that expectations have to be tempered because of that?
100%, guys. I agree, and I think one thing that the fan base has tended to try and do is to be tempered and go right. If you ask a lot of Town fans now, if we're all sat in the pub and you have 100 Town fans, I would say maybe 80 of them would say, "Look, we'll be even lucky to make the playoffs on the kind of form and the injuries that we've got now." But I think the most frustrating thing, Gaz, is that it's a bit like City, right? You have these moments in the sun, and then you just never take hold of them, do you? You know what I mean? You never get anywhere. You just you have you go 5 steps forward, and then you end up going 10 back. It's like when we got promoted to the Premier League. We got promoted to the Premier League, got 200 million, and we were back in the Championship with absolutely no money within 3 seasons. No money. Because all the parachute payments have been spent. So it's like this season, we've been relegated. So everybody, fresh start, Duff comes in, all positivity, looking for a new momentum. And then injuries happen. And then things get said. And it just goes all to pot. And within 7 weeks, we've lost in the FA Cup. We're out of the FA Cup. Then we have an unbeaten run of 16 games, but a lot of them are draws. And like I said, not very good performances. But we did go unbeaten for 16 games. And now we're in the run that we're in now.
I think that obviously, like you look at where you're at. You're absolutely right. Birmingham are obviously away, and they're going to spend more than anybody. But you financially have probably spent. Have you spent the next most after Birmingham? I don't know.
Yeah, next most, but probably not in wages. Probably in, because I think Wrexham have done a lot in wages. They've just not done a lot in transfer fees. And the thing that annoys me, Gaz, is it's a bit like City fans with Alexander. Like, you can't just keep sacking managers and expecting to get good managers off the back of the manager that you've just sacked. Like, you know, when Duff gets sacked, is somebody better than Duff going to come into the building? Yeah. No. Right? Duff was signed and appointed because he got Barnsley to a playoff final and was a width away, literally a width of a post away, taking them up. And realistically, Barnsley were the playoffs. That squad that he had at Barnsley weren't as good as the side that he's got now at Town when everybody's fit and fine in. But he didn't take them up. And obviously, he left the football club and then went to Swansea. And we know what happened from there. We aren't going to get a better manager than Town. And it's all right, people going, well, just appoint John Worthington. But John Worthington's a legend at the club, will always be a legend. But that doesn't mean to say that he's got an automatic right to get this football club into a playoff position and then win the playoffs to get us up.
You're preaching to converted with managers, as you know, Downsy, because you're saying that about Duff is what I've said about a lot of City managers, and in particular about Alexander. Anyway, I know that Luke wants to come in, so
why don't we just give Duff a chance and once he's got get rid of a lot of these players off these contracts that are coming to the end. Let him build a fresh new squad and sign players that are not injury prone. It absolutely drives my nutting that we keep going for people like Freddie Ladapo that are just not good enough. They're just not.
And it comes on to Lou's point about what I know he wants to bring up about.
Yeah, go on, Lou, because I know that you listen to our show.
I don't know if that's one for later, but I know he wants to come in now.
No, it's fine. And like I say, you're preaching to the convert with me. There's a few points from me, and I listened to your show Downsy yesterday, and I'll urge any Town fan to listen to it because I actually found it really interesting just as an outsider. Listen, I don't go watch Huddersfield Town a lot. I'm not massively close to the club, but obviously do watch extended highlights because we're connected from a podcast and get to listen to you guys. First of all, getting rid of Michael Duff at this stage of his season is not the right thing to do, in my opinion. If you want to have a chance of potentially going up in a division by changing a manager near the beginning of March when you're still currently in the playoffs, is madness. It's madness. Unless you've got a ready-made replacement to come in, and I can't really see any outstanding candidates out there that will take that on to the point where you've got, 10 to 15 games to get into the seat and change it. You've not got any players that you might really want in your system. You're going to have to change everything about it. You might change backroom staff, your training, everything like that, right? Which some of the players might not take to, right? And which comes on to my point in a little bit as well. I don't think Michael Duff going is the right thing for Huddersfield Town at the moment. And I'm seeing comments coming in saying, if we get the playoffs, we're not going to win it. Forget about promotion. We're just not good enough. Too many injuries. And Duff's tactic 3-5-2. You're fifth. You're fifth in the playoffs. What? And I appreciate there's money, right? But what was the expectation of Huddersfield Town at the beginning of the season? Was it to go up? Probably was. Do you still stand a chance of going up? Yes, you do. You're not 14th, 15th or battling against relegation, albeit performances. And I bow to your greatness, Steve, because obviously you've seen him a lot more and the guys have as well. And performances do matter to an extent, but results are more important. And you've got more positive results than negative ones because you're in the playoffs. Were you going to compete? And were you going to compete against likes of Birmingham? No. You're not going to compete against it because I don't think League One has seen a team like a Birmingham in a long time, if I'm being honest. Are you going to compete against the likes of Wrexham and stuff? You're probably expected to, and you are. Wickham have been a bit of a freak team, albeit they might slip a little bit because they haven't got Bloomfield in charge. And yes, the gap has closed a little bit. But I will look in earlier. You're in the top four, with that dreaded XG stat, right, in the league. You're in the top 4 for shots on target per match. You're in the top 4 for big chances, and you're in the top 4 for big chances missed, right? So you're doing something, right? People are saying it's boring. It's a bit monotonous. It's a little bit dull. If my team is in the top 4 of them stats, I don't think that's terribly boring. Don't get me wrong, it's not a statistic I want in terms of big chance missed. But then what was the call during halfway through the first half of this season? We're not converting chances. We're not good enough. We ain't got strike players. What did Town go and do? They're going to sign Dion Charles, who's one of the better players in League One up front. And you signed Joe Taylor, who everybody wanted at the beginning of the season. And he's probably been unfortunate with injury, obviously, since he's come in. But you've gone and you've signed players who the fans wanted to fill that position, and are still not happy about it.
I think the thing is though is like, and I appreciate what you said there on the paper of XG. I think you make some great points, and a lot of that does propose the fact that Town should be playing good football. But as we know, football is not played on paper or a computer screen. It's played in front of his eyes in a stadium. Now, do I think the football is free-flowing and fantastic? No. Do I think Michael Duff is sometimes too stubborn? Yes. Do I think Michael Duff has got the best team that he can pick to his availability at the moment? Definitely not. Did we sign players at the start of the season that fits Michael Duff's system? Yes. Has he had the majority of the players for that time that he's been in charge? No. Sorensen's been injured at right wing back for God knows how many games. Mikael Miller played about 10 games at the start of the season, been injured for the rest of that time. Ben Wiles has been hit and miss in terms of form, not consistent, but he's played every game, to be fair to the lad. But he's now just knackered because he's having to do 3 jobs in midfield, which one player shouldn't have to do. Kasumu, he's been injured, but he's been one of the better players. And then you've had people like Joe Hodge come in. Hoggy can't play every game now because he's 35-year-old. And Anthony Evans has had this toe injury, which seems pretty bad, to be honest, but has now started to play a little bit more. But apparently it hurts like mad when he comes on. So, like, you're talking about the front end of your team, and we talk about the strikers. Danny Ward's been injured and cropped and isn't very good anymore. Freddie Ladapo, don't get me even started. I think Chris could play up front for us and do a better job. Bojan Radulovic genuinely could be a decent footballer, but he's too soft. Although it was quite funny in pre-season when he scored at Guiseley and I said that he wasn't very good. We've got Dion Charles, who we brought in, as you said, Lou, but he's not firing. I don't think he's very confident at the moment. But also, our lads are not used to the runs that he's making, so that doesn't help, and he's not used to playing in our system. Joe Taylor's out injured at the moment, so he's not had a run in the team. If I missed any other striker, Callum Marshall's a young lad from West Ham, a lot of pressure. And Josh Koroma, we know about Josh. He's always been inconsistent. He's never hit 10, 15 goals a season in a Town shirt. So the whole front end of your team is just not as concise and as free-flowing as it should be. And the one thing that we relied on, Lou, was at the start of the season was actually the solid defence. Even in those performances that I say that we didn't get, but you're right to point out that we got results. A lot of those results were built on the stability of the back line. The fact that most of our defenders were actually fit and they were playing all right. Yeah. But now that's not even happening. Like I said, Lombard's the only free fit centre-back. And he's only had one training session in 7 weeks.
You make some... Listen, I agree with everything you said. And I think and again, comes on to a couple of my points, which is not directly aimed at Town or even based on what Yes's conversation I'm saying is general as well, is that Town and Michael Duff especially, like you said, Downs, has hardly had a fully fit squad to build, right? Now, yes, fingers can be pointed at recruitment, this, that and the other, but let's be absolutely realistic here. Huddersfield Town are in League One, they're not in the Premier League. They have to get who they think at that time and who's available that can possibly do a job across the whole of the season. Right? Yeah. Injuries hurt teams. That's why you have a squad. And unfortunately, and this isn't kind of going against what you said, but it's going to be rare that you're going to play a full strength squad a lot through this season. But I reiterate the point: you're fifth. People have got crying and moaning about the fact as if you're in mid-table and don't stand a chance of anything like that. And you've had some really bad injury luck. And listen, there might be something deeper in that. And listen, that's for another probably show that you were chatting about, which I get. There's something in there that definitely needs to be investigated, because the amount of injuries and niggles that are coming in terms of that need to be addressed. But what I also say is, what's a manager supposed to do when he has this many injuries? He said it today in his press conference. I listened to it earlier, where he says he's never been in a situation like this where the players are injured as much as what they have been.
Yeah.
And also, this is one key thing I want to say is, it isn't all Michael Duff's fault. So those Town fans are going on, calling for his head, waiting until the end of full time to applaud the players apparently and boo the manager. What's all that about? Seriously, what is all that about? Like, you again, I reiterate, you're fifth in the playoffs, right? You might not necessarily agree with everything he does, right? But there's a reason why he's in charge and the rest of everybody else is in the terrace, right? Because let's be honest, he's probably a better football manager than all of us put together. There's a reason why he's in that job, right? So to boo the manager who has got you into this position that you are challenging potentially to get promoted, not saying you are, but you're in a potential position to do that with the squad and selection that he's been able to do, but yet boo him. I find it absolutely crazy. I were there for the Lincoln game, weren't we, Chris, right? And you were 1-0 down or whatever, it was 2-0 down at half-time, and it was toxic. You scored one goal, the place lifted, and you could have easily gone on to win that game. And I can't remember a game this season when I've been when it was so day and night in terms of the atmosphere and how it was.
No,
so some of the fans are prepared to boo Duff. They criticise a little bit of damp atmosphere. Well, actually, in fact, maybe get behind him. Maybe you create the atmosphere and show a little bit of togetherness. Because if you're booing Duff for not doing his job properly, what are fans doing then by being quiet and not really encouraging it and booing it? I don't get it. I seriously don't get it. And I know this will ruffle a few feathers. Sorry, Dan, I'll let you speak in a bit. I know this will ruffle a few feathers with people, but it really grinds my gears when this happens, when fans are almost feel like there's some self-entitlement because they've paid the money or paid a season ticket and this, that, and the other. You haven't. You're paying for a subjective product that might work one week and it might not do the other week. And you know what? That's tough luck because that's football. You ain't going to win every game playing all Barcelona football in the early 2000s and win the league by 100 points. It ain't going to happen. And I know that sucks to see and sucks to hear, but that's just the way it is. If you were 14th, 15th when you spent all this money, I'd go, you know what, some of them it is absolutely fair and you might want better performances. But at this moment in time, I would think if I'm a player or I'm Michael Duff, I'd want people on my side to encourage it, because when people get on backs, as Gaz probably knows well too much from City times at Valley Parade, when it starts getting toxic, funny enough, you don't get successful teams, do you? So maybe get behind the players and actually encourage them to maybe pick up the confidence. So in the next game, Wigan away, in a Stevenage away, is actually those that go, hopefully get behind them, actually say, you know, we're fully behind you. We're still in the playoff chase. Might not be the top two that we were all potentially hoping for, but playoffs is not a bad second, is it? To give yourself a chance of doing it. In my opinion, playoffs are a lottery. Don't matter whether you're going playing well or not. Really don't matter. Playoffs are a complete and utter one-off, in my opinion. But just take yourself out that bubble a little bit and think about the situation you're in with the squads that Duff's had to pick, with the players you've got available, and actually consider yourself pretty fortunate that you're in this position of where you are. Because I would actually, in my honest opinion, think that Michael Duff's not done a bad job at Huddersfield Town.
I'm just about to say what Lou's saying there about so much echoing about what happens at City, and it's so difficult. It's good to hear it from someone on the outside, because when you're in the middle of it, it is so hard to sort of think outside the box. But what he's saying is spot on, and it's exactly what happens at City regarding toxicity and the negative spiral. But what I will say about Duff, just before, I know obviously Downs is going to come back in, but what I will say is he's saying he's not had a fit team, he's not had his players fit and available. Well, if you're going to if there's going to be an overhaul of the squad and some of these contracts are going to end in the summer, then you might as well stick with him and see how he does when he does have a fit and available squad.
Yeah.
As completely swap and get somebody else in, and you might as well, because what's to say it's going to be any different under anybody else? You might as well stick with Duff and see how he does when he does have things going for him.
And you know what, guys? Sorry, Dancy. Sorry, but people say it's just players. There were 3 players who just signed in pre-season that started the game on Saturday. 3. So that equals 8 players in that starting 11 on Saturday that are not really his players. So when they say, it's Michael Duff's players and his team, it's not. You don't have your own team unless you're there for potentially 4 or 5 transfer windows. He has to deal with those players that he's got at that moment in time that Huddersfield, 1, might not be able to pay off, 1, might not be able to get rid of, and 3, he actually maybe doesn't mind him, or 4, absolutely loves him and he wants him in his squad. So actually, when people go, he should be doing better because it's his players, it's not true. It's absolutely not true.
My God, we genuinely could do a whole show on this discussion.
Dancy, we haven't got time to let you talk, mate. We need to...
No, I know that you are. But can I just at least come back on some of those points?
I'm joking. Okay. I am joking.
So I think exactly what you've both said is fantastic, right? One of the things one of the things that I want to come back on is, and I agree with you, Lou. The fact that you're right that he hasn't, the 3 of those players that he did sign, there is a point though that, like for example, the fans forum happened the other week, where Mark Cartwright, who was in charge of bringing players in, he wasn't there, so he didn't answer questions. Duff had to step into his place, so Duff's answering a lot of the questions that realistically Mark Cartwright should have answered. Now, Mark Cartwright didn't turn up for whatever reasons there may be. And I think some of the things that have been targeted towards Mark Cartwright are absolutely disgraceful and disgusting. But he does need to answer questions to why things have happened the way he has. Now, he has brought in some good players. Dion Charles, Joe Taylor, Ruben Ruskin, even Sorensen from Lincoln, we know was a good player at Lincoln. It doesn't help, though, when the owner, and we have interviewed Kevin Nagel on the show, and I really do respect what he's doing off the field, but it definitely doesn't help when he's come out publicly and he sort of mocked Town fans in a slight way to like going, well, it's all Mark's fault and this and that and other, when it's kind of the joking in these diaries. You're speaking to a lot of Town fans that have watched Town for like 40, 50 years, been to the bottom league. What's us in League 2 with absolutely no money. And I know, Lou, like you support non-league, so like realistically, me saying that is like, God, you should be lucky to have no money in League 2.
I get it.
But I think, all Town fans are asking, which is what City fans are asking, is can we just have a bit of ambition and a bit of progression, but also a bit of like, sensible thinking, like. If we see a player that's got an injury record, do we think, you know what, we'll go and sign him on a 2-year deal like we did with Reece Healy? We knew he had hamstring injuries to absolute crap, but we still signed him on a 2-year deal, thinking, but he might work out. And then when you go at the start of the season, we signed Freddie Ladapo. Well, we were tracking him all summer. He was a free agent at Ipswich. Don't treat us like idiots. And I think sometimes, unfortunately, because those questions are not being answered from higher above, I think that's why the pressure has come on to Duff now. And I don't agree with the booing him at end of game and clapping players, because ultimately, does Michael Duff make David Kasumu pass a ball badly? No. Like David Kasumu's got a brain, he's got eyes, he's got ears, and he's got a footballing ability of some level. Like, he should be able to pass a ball more than 5 yards. Michael Duff has no, it's not FIFA. He doesn't control him on a computer screen. And that's what frustrates me. It's like a supporter next to me, Lou, right? Genuinely. This happened the other week, yeah? And I can't remember which game it was. And Matty Pearson, when he was fit, he was playing. And he was on the wing, because the way Duff Systems works is Sorensen goes down the wing and Matty Pearson's behind him. And a lot of the time, Sorensen takes 2 players away, passes it back to Pearson, and Pearson crosses it into the box. Matty Pearson, right, is a fantastic centre-back that heads the ball every day, all day long. Matty Pearson is not there or shouldn't be there to cross the ball into the box, like as a fantastic crosser of the ball. So a lot of the time, Matty either passes it back to the centre of defence or he just lobs it long. And the fans going to him, Matty, why didn't you cross it first time and giving him crap? Well, why don't you think, is there a reason why Matty Pearson can't do that as a footballer?
And this is it, Downs. And this is what gets to me.
Infuriates me.
The players at certain occasions are let off quite lightly, and there's a lot of criticism that's aimed at the manager because it's a scapegoat.
Way too lightly.
And I think there's listen. I see it a lot. I see it at a lot of games, and I've seen it in my club as well. That players are let off lightly, and players need to take accountability, in which I'm pretty sure they're doing responsibility. But fans also just need to accept that as well, that it isn't just the manager's decision. You know, it was like I was again watching pre-match Sheffield United, Leeds United. Chris Wilder was saying, "There's not much I can do now in terms of just before the game. It's up to the players to do what they want to do." Like, that's fine. That's absolutely the right thing to do because there's only so much you can tell the players to do before they get over the white line. So actually, you should be together as one instead of just creating a division, which seems to be the case with applauding players and that. I agree, Mike. You've got to give Duff a chance. It's no coincidence in many divisions and leagues that the successful ones have had a consistent squad with managers who've been there 2, 3, 4 years, which is not very rare, but the 100%. Ones that you see are usually up there. Yes, Birmingham are a bit of a different case at the moment because obviously the money that they've got. But what I will say is you've got to give them a chance. You can't blame it all on Duff. The players have got to take accountability. The players have been there for quite a while and yes, have failed because they've been relegated. But you know what? At least Duff's getting half a decent tune of it by getting 5th.
Keep Duff, replace the recruitment team, replace the players that are out of contract, and actually build a sustainable squad. That's what should be done in the summer. That's
giving it to Worthing until the end of the season, honestly.
It doesn't solve anything, Lou. It doesn't solve anything.
Well,
it just
creates more questions for next season because you haven't got your manager in place for next season. But like I said, I could do a whole show on it, but honestly, I had to get
sorry, Chris.
How many times have we come on here?
That's been said is crazy, honestly.
How many times have we come on here and Downsy's talked about Cartwright being a problem? So he's still there, isn't he? So,
but that's the thing. That's what's so infuriating, Gaz, that they'll come out and they'll protect him, and just give the man a chance. All Town fans want to do is ask him some, sensible Town fans, not the ones that are sending him flipping death threats, which is pathetic and absolutely disgusting. The proper Town fans that want to ask him some detailed, sensible questions. That's those questions need to be asked. And he's had 3 transfer windows now to change this atmosphere and squad round, and he hasn't been able to do it because I don't think he's got the contacts to do it.
And I think that's fair, and I think it's fair. There's obviously questions that need to be asked, like you said, of higher up.
Duff's not the problem.
But also, people are humans. People make mistakes. The likes of Cartwright and Duff, etc., are not going to get it right every time. And as a football fan, I've seen it across occasions. I've been there and done it, and I still see it now. People expect absolute perfection. That ain't going to happen. You've got to accept there's going to be failures. So Huddersfield in League One are not going to sign a perfect squad. Deal with it, get on with it, and get behind your team.
So I can't wait to lose on Saturday, Chris. 3-0 to Wigan.
Yeah, I mean, is that actually tomorrow night? Is it the Wigan game?
The Wigan game, yeah. Sorry, not Saturday. That's how much I don't even know what's happening. Yeah, tomorrow night is Wigan.
You threw me then.
It should have been a couple of weeks ago, but it was the whole of Lancashire was underwater. Well, probably except for Gaz actually. In Aki. Yeah. So I think tomorrow. Listen, Wigan are in a sort of a position where they just can't score. Very solid team. Got a great midfield, but they just haven't got anybody up front. Obviously, sold Asgard, didn't they? Who were their kind of creative man. So, and then we got Stevenage, another team that we struggled against at the beginning of the season, but got a result against. So, I agree, Ben. I do agree. But, it's...
That wasn't Ben, that was James.
That's James.
Oh, James. Sorry, James. James,
James has been surprisingly quiet during the Huddersfield chat, but he couldn't wait to get involved when Leeds were losing.
Yeah.
Let's kind of round it off there then with Town and turn our attentions to the non-league scene, Lou. We'll try and rattle through in a few minutes. Start at the top then. FC Halifax Town, their game away at York City at the weekend. Not a bad outcome for them, really. 2-2 away at York.
No, but conceding in 99th minute doesn't always go down well, does it? Unfortunately, I think.
No.
But I think if you'd have taken a point before the game, yes, absolutely. But probably in the circumstances of the way it is, it'd be disappointing. Like you say, it's been a tough place to go as York. Surprised me. Yes, they've had a little bit of money, but they've definitely surprised me as York.
Shed load.
Yeah, absolutely. And being second, but now they are 9 points off Barnet with a couple of games in hand. But again, we keep saying about Halifax, another manager who's phenomenal, does well at his job, and probably gets a few criticisms his way. Again, crazy. 6 in the league. Yes, they've played a game more than a couple around them, but they're still 6. And I know what they've got. Who've got the weekend? Oh, it's tomorrow, aren't they? They've got Dagenham at home tomorrow, which is one that probably they'll be looking at as one that they can hopefully get on the board with 3 points and build again. But yeah, I mean, obviously you signed me against Rochdale as well. Midweek, and I don't know what were your thoughts on that one, Chris, because you had a better view than me.
Yeah, they were very solid enough, to be fair. It was a goalless draw on Wednesday night against Rochdale. And yeah, to be fair, Halifax had the better chances. There was 1-on-1 in the first half that was saved well by Sam Waller, and then a penalty in the second half, like 84th minute, which was then saved by Sam Waller as well. So they had the better chances, but I reckon Dale probably shaded the possession in the kind of ball possession and the like. Just a quick one as well. The game tomorrow is off. That Dagenham game is gone. There was a
cut that bit. We're not live. Cut it.
There was a 7:30 pitch inspection for that one, and 45 minutes ago they put out that following the pitch inspection, it's been postponed due to heavy rainfall on Sunday.
Brilliant. I was doing my town research, so I'll forget that bit. Yeah, scrap it.
I genuinely think if the way Halifax keep going, then I mean, I could see them doing well in the playoffs. There's a lot of momentum there now, isn't there?
Agree, mate. Agree.
It's there's a lot.
To go to York and get a 2-2 draw. I know what you're saying, Lou, like 99th minute or whatever, but York are absolutely flying, aren't they? I mean, they are one of the top teams now in that league. It's
and Town usually do well against big teams.
Yeah,
they do. Internationally, North Farsley Celtic. Obviously, a lot of talk in the last fortnight since we were last on Talk All Things Farsley. Change of board. Obviously, David Stockdale is coming as manager, the former goalkeeper. But on Saturday, it was a 1-0 defeat against tabletop-in Chester at Buxton. And that, combined with other results elsewhere, sees Farsley on the pitch at least drop to the bottom of the table. But as we've said time and time again, with the way the squad is and the departures, it's not overly surprising. And it's just a massive job ahead for everyone concerned with the club.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's be absolutely honest about this. Farsley are probably going to go down. They are, I think 8 points adrift.
Yeah, 8 points
now. They've lost a few more players. I know Rudy Misambu's gone to FC United, and as well as Bailey Sloan and Sam Fielding have left the club. So they are basically, with respect, academy side at the moment. So listen, we just hope they continue on to just fund as much money as I possibly can. I think we reached over 10 grand during the week, I believe, close to the 25 grand target. And I know they had a feature with our friends at Radio Leeds as well, where the guys went down there and did a feature with the new board members. So they've just got to do everything they can to survive. It's as simple as that. It doesn't get any easier for them. Chorley away tomorrow night is just one that you just don't want to. You don't want to play Chorley at the best of times, but on a Tuesday night away from home with the situation you're in doesn't sit well. And then they play Kidderminster, who have been a bit inconsistent, but again, are expected to probably beat Farsley. So I think the way Farsley are going, I hate to say it, you can probably write off survival in terms of on the pitch in terms of this division. But they'll be looking to just pick some points up. They've got South Shields and might stand a chance against South Shields and Oxford City, and just pick the odd point and just have a bit of pride and show that they're willing to one, finish the season and maybe go into next season, whatever division that potentially might be in, with a bit of confidence. But it's such a shame. I know it's out of our region, but we've seen Farnsley Celtic crowdfund. In the last week, we've seen Blythe Spartans crowdfund as well. And this is what we see at the moment in non-league. And we talk about money, don't we, in terms of League Two, with what Gaz said, if City went up, and what some Huddersfield fans are moaning about. Clubs are on the brink of dying at non-league and its level, and a famous non-league club like Blythe Spartans potentially having to crowd from 25 grand. That's the situation these clubs are in. It kind of puts stuff in perspective.
Yeah,
what just from an ignorant point of view, because obviously you lads look at it more than me, the goings on there. What is the what does the 25 grand get Farsley? And also, secondly, the chap that was in charge of it all, how does that, if he's not involved at all at any level anymore, how does that move things with the pitch and the stadium and stuff?
Owns, am I right in thinking, Lou, that he owns the land that the ground is on? Is my understanding. He is no longer on the board, but he does still own the land that Farsley Celtic sits on.
So he doesn't own the club at all then? The club's separate to the land, yeah?
I believe so. It's a little bit grey, to say the least, I think, at the moment. But he's no longer on the board. Josh Greaves, along with 3 others, I think, now, Lou, have taken on the mantle on the board there. And as regards to the money, am I right in thinking, Lou, that's basically just to try and see them to the end of the season?
Yeah, so at the moment, I'm literally looking at it now, so we'll make sure we're right. So they've raised 50% of what they need. So they raised 12,600 and they need 25,000. So what they've put on their crowdfunding is basically there's different values that you can do. Program mentions this, that, and the other, from 10 quid, and it goes all the way up to a couple £1,000 for sponsors, this, that, and the other. But basically, they're asking for everybody's help. Face many challenges over years to overcome them, but financial shadow is looming over our club, and we really do need your help to ensure we have a future. That's how serious it is. Those are the words on their crowdfunding, to ensure we have a future. They've played the past 10 months without any home games. We've discussed that week on week. Now they're playing at Buxton, which is now a half away. As a result, they've had very little revenue, which has led to severe challenges. Obviously, with Paul Bamford departing as well, leaves a bit of a gap in terms of that as well. And basically, the words are, it leaves us facing a battle to get through the rest of the season. Top and bottom of it, that's what it is. So basically, they just need as much money as they possibly can to see them through the end of the season. What that looks like post end of the season is unknown. Again, we'll invite Farsley Celtic, obviously, and the guys at Josh and etc. to maybe we can get them to speak, obviously, at the moment, because we're going a bit more public, because we probably need to keep the club surviving. So it'd be good to get them and get a bit of awareness, and maybe Downs and they could probably put a bit more meat on the bones from what we're saying, because they, again, will know far better than us. But ultimately, what they're saying is this is where you can help provide us with a lifeline. That's how serious it is. We're talking about the pitch. There's planning permission for a 4G pitch to be obtained, but that's long term. They're looking to lay a grass pitch down at the Citadel. Again, we're coming up to the beginning of March. We've got about a couple of months left till the end of the season. Will that happen? Question mark. Don't know. It's desperate. It's absolutely desperate at Farsley Celtic. I think we're probably resigned to the fact that we're not going to stay in this division on the pitch. It's what does that look like after? And we've seen clubs in the past. I've seen it with the likes of, I think Vauxhall Motors were one in recent years where they went down and take voluntary relegation. I'm not saying this is the same at all with Farsley, but there is potential that non-league clubs can almost take voluntary relegation to a certain division. That will obviously mean that they can be competitive both on and off the pitch in that division, which again throws up another conundrum for all the league management committees and structures of how that all sits, because they will be shuffling about and how that looks. But yeah, it's desperate. It's desperate for Farsley, and we keep saying it, wish them all the best, and it'd be good to get the guys on to just, like we said, Steve, just to probably give a bit more substantial answers than what obviously we see just posted on the internet.
Absolutely. Let's keep working our way through the non-league pyramid then into the MPL, the Northern Premier League, and for Guiseley, a 2-2 draw for them on the road at Leek Town.
Yeah, they just seem to have just stuttered a little bit, guys, in recent weeks. I don't think they've won in since the end of Jan. Draw, end of Jan when they beat Worksop in that big kind of top of the table clash.
Yeah.
Losing to Morpeth, Lancaster, and Prescott, then they've drawn against Ilkeston and Leek. It probably stops the rot in terms of that losing run, but I know the likes of Mark and Danny will want to have a good end to the season going into the playoffs. Yes, it is a lottery, but you still probably want to go in with an half-decent run of form. But they play Ashton at home, which is a big game on Saturday.
Huge.
And it'll be one that we'll probably want to get because of the slip from second to fourth. Ashton are 1 point above them in third. And I think that'll be a perfect recipe for guys just to get back onto winning ways and see it through to the end of the season, the playoffs. And that playoff position and race we spoke about in different guys with League Two. Yes, there's a bit more gap between 5th and 6th at the moment with 5 points. I think it might tighten a bit, but what I will say is that'll be extremely competitive with likes of Worksop, Passion and Guiseley, and maybe one of Stockton or Ilkeston in there. I wouldn't fancy playing any of them teams, not one of them. And I think you could almost just flip a coin between all of them and with 4 sides and see who turns up, because that is as close it's going to be.
Absolutely. Into the MPL East then, and a largely positive weekend for the sides across our region. We'll start probably with the disappointing ones. Stocksbridge Park Steels, they beat Liversidge by 3-0. Garforth, they lost 2-0 at home to Cleethorpes. We've talked many times, Lou, about Cleethorpes and the power and the budget that they kind of have in the MPL East. Elsewhere, Brighouse got a good win away at North Ferriby with a 1-0 win. Pontefract Collieries, they beat Grimsby by 2-1. And apart from Avenue, which I'll lead to you, mate. Ossett United, they got a goalless draw against Sheffield, which leaves your trip to the northeast into Bishop Auckland.
Yeah, listen, Avenue have been blooming awful in the past few games. It's as simple as that. I will use the words that Dandy said, but I'm not that polite. It's been woeful against Heaton Stannington, Concert and Garforth. Garforth did exactly what they needed to do in midweek. No complaints. We know what Paul Marshall's men do. Very stubborn, very organised, disciplined. Again, a team who've had a manager for a fair few years and a team who's had a squad together for a few years. No surprise that they got promoted and are chasing the playoffs. But, what do we know about football sometimes? But yeah, North East, basically, Craig Elliott went back to basics, stripped it even further back. There's a distinct lack of confidence, which, again, is kind of mirroring what we said with Huddersfield. But actually putting a really good shift on a difficult pitch. The night before, Middlesbrough under-23s played against Manchester City under-23s. So you can imagine the state of the pitch as the game went on. It did become a bit of a mud patch. But Avenue did well, disappointing, conceded a goal as they did the equaliser. But first half looked strong. Kind of just lost steam a little bit in that second half, if I'm being honest. But one player I will say, and they'll probably want to keep it quiet, but you can't not, is Miles Besteed. Academy product out of Avenue. He's probably too good for that league. But I know Craig's really keen to keep him because he's got the ability to just turn defenders inside out, hit the bar twice in 30 seconds, and it's one of those shots where you see it, where he's hit it too well. If he scuffs it a bit, it probably goes in, but he's literally put his laces right through it, and it just strikes across bar, and he's hit one just before that from 25 yards that tips the bar as well. So it's better. It's going to be, listen, Craig's not even talking about playoffs anymore. It's literally a game as it comes. And the big news is that he's extended his deal until the end of next season, which I think shows, one, the club seems to be getting on the right footing because a calibre of manager like that is prepared to stay for another year and build a squad. And also it shows a commitment from the club to put the faith into a manager who has had a tricky few weeks, if I'm being honest, but he's a proven winner and leader, and he'll want to build a bit of a squad, ironically what we're saying earlier, to his own kind of mantra. But for me, I know that, probably listening to like Demo, etc. from Brighouse, they're for me the team of the week. Unbelievable results. I wouldn't have had Brighouse to beat Dunstan, and I wouldn't have had him to beat North Ferriby. If I'm being honest, you'd have probably gone, I'd be surprised if they get a point out of them. We've got 6 points out of 2 games. For those in the AFL space, might remember Matt Tootle, who were at Crewe. He signed at Brighouse as well. So that's a really good signing from Grant Black and the team there. And they've just put a little bit of a cushion with Ossett being on a bit of a flyer under Walshaw, who go to Avenue on Saturday. Brighouse in 17th above the relegation zone, which kind of puts Ryan Tolson and his team into the thick of it, and the pressure on Tully, which it's tough to watch because they've got, again, experience that we gained from Farsley. And what I will say is that relegation battle, for me, I said it will go down to that final day. It's like it's a Liverpool grid. They've got a fair bit of money behind them, and they've had the goalkeeper who on loan with Avenue, which I call outstanding, should be nowhere near this level. Heaton Stannington, the better team than what they showed in 18th. Concert are down there, beat Avenue 3-1. Any team can beat anybody at this level. So it's one that I think we'll keep a close eye on, because Ossett only a few weeks ago and a month ago were in the bottom 4, and now the 16th, 6 points clear of the relegation zone with 2 games in hand. That's how crazy this league is.
It is. And just remind me again, it is 4 that go down, isn't it, from the MPL East, which seems
4,
crazy.
Yeah. Just because obviously I keep an eye on this league because of Emily, but also because of our other sides. But I mean, Lou, obviously, Cleethorpes at the top there, with 70 points. I mean, the next 4 in the playoffs at the moment are Emily, Belper, Dunstan, and Newton, Aycliffe. I mean, there's about 10 games left now. I mean, obviously, North Ferriby and Newton are on the same points. BPA are 10 points behind that. I mean, what is your honest assessment of, I think Cleethorpes are probably going to win the league, aren't they? But, who would you say are favourites for the playoffs as it stands?
Mate, I mean, I'm interested to see what you think, Lou, but again, as we always say, playoffs are a lottery, and honestly, there's so many sides that could still make it.
Do you think BPA can make it, though? Or not?
No. I'll be surprised. Listen, there's always a chance with 10 games to go. There's a potential to do it. From an Avenue perspective, we do have to play Newton Aycliffe again, Dunstan again, Cleethorpes twice. So you could argue it's still in Avenue's hands, but you're basically expected to win all their games to stand a chance. Cleethorpes have got Aaron Branthwaite from Scunthorpe, have signed a longer permanent deal today. And then they've let Alex Flett, who's made 500 appearances, go to North Ferriby, who also got Luke Hogg from ourselves last week. So they're bolstering. I've said, and I could be again, you might want to clip it and take it. I think Ferriby will get in it, just because I think they've been fairly settled. I think Emily, again, God, we're talking like a repeating record, aren't we? A manager who's been here for a long time, with a squad who's been here for a long time, a second and a quite successful coincidence. I think they're done unbelievably well. For me, they're the team of the year in this division and probably in around this area at the moment. But the North East teams are so hard to beat on their own patch. If likes of Dunstan get 4th, for instance, from 4th, I'd be worrying about them. I'm not too sure about Belper, too inconsistent for me, if I'm being honest. But I think Dunstan and Ferriby, for me, could be the dark horses. And that's not saying they don't deserve it, because they absolutely can do it. I just think maybe in one-off games, those teams might just have a little bit more than Emily, just simply based on, I think, just one-off games. I think they might just do it. But if Avenue don't do it, Emily are capable of doing it. They absolutely are capable of doing it. I could be wrong in this, Downsy. Cracky, you don't want your team to not get promoted, because obviously you do. That's what we're all in it for, aren't we? I think if Emily went up, you wouldn't want it to set them back, and I think that would be a little bit of a worry, because you don't want them to almost jump too far ahead of where they want to be.
I think there's a few board members that would be a bit worried if they did go up, because obviously there's certain stipulations that you have to put in place, don't you? They're even a level above this that I think Emily would have to put into place. But I think Emily, and for me, Ossett, the turnaround there are just absolutely outstanding from James Walshaw. To be going and playing from Emily to then jump into the frying pan of Ossett and turn that around like he has is just absolutely outstanding.
I agree. I think he's done an unbelievable job. Him and Ryan Qualter being outstanding. They've pretty much changed the squad from what they inherited, and to be where they are with the resources that they've got is outstanding, and the crowds keep on increasing as well. And it feels like there might be a little bit of a good feel factor about Ossett, and you feel that with Wally, he will be committed for a fair amount of time, I'd suspect, at Ossett. I think he loves the club as much as anybody else, and I think it would take a fair bit for him to move. And I don't see where else he potentially goes at the moment either. But you put yourself in the window, don't you?
Sad for Liversidge, innit? I think the demise of Liversidge is
Yeah, be capable of
Yeah.
getting out of it. I think we've got a fair amount of experience. I think Tully will probably need a little bit of support in this time because it's pretty much a new role for him. He probably needs a bit of an experienced head to kind of lean on and bounce off a little bit. But yeah, it's tough going, and especially like I say, this is what we said. Ossett with a few results, Brighouse, 2 unexpected results have got out of it. That's all it takes in this league. Doesn't take a lot, if I'm being honest, because it's so inconsistent in this league, and that's a level that it is. If you can string 2 wins together, like they absolutely can do, they'll be out of that relegation zone in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's turn our attention then into the northwest counties. And when looking at the weekend's results, big wins for Albion, in particular with a 4-0 win over Pickering Town. Elsewhere, Penistone Church, they won 5-3 away at Barton Town. Ecclesfield United, they got another good win in their quest to avoid the bottom 2, although it's a pretty healthy gap now. They should see themselves saved with a 1-0 win over Knaresborough Town. Golka, they picked up a 4-1 win at home to Handsworth. And Thackley, they also scored 4 on the road away at Rossington, Maine. The surprise result of the weekend, though, came from second bottom Winston Rangers winning at top of the league Silsden by 2-0.
Yeah, I didn't see that one at all. I don't think many did. I know they had a bit of a shuffle to the first team, like Kel Price didn't play, which might have an effect on them. But yeah, that was a surprise. And Golka winning just settles it a little bit in terms of actually they may have not won the league just yet. But we know what Cav's like. Cavill, he sets high standards for his team, and I'm sure he'll be looking to improve that. But sometimes as crazy it sounds, you might just need the odd result just to reset expectations and not get too complacent. And yes, he'll be disappointed at that result, but it's something that he can refer to and actually say that needs to be just a one-off. Teams are allowed an off day. That's it.
Yeah, it'll be straight back at it. I'm sure Will Silsden when they travel to Gould tomorrow night. In the Northwest Counties Division 1, then elsewhere, again, some big scorelines this weekend across the Northeast Counties League. Glasshouse Welfare, they beat Dronfield Town by 5-3. Horbury, they got a 1-1 draw against Clubthorne Colliery. Ilkley Town were beaten 2-1 at home by Brig. Nostell Miners Welfare also won 5-3. There's been some absolutely insane scorelines this weekend in the Northern Counties East League. Yorkshire, they were beaten 2-1 at home against Swallow Nest, and Wakefield, they beat South Leeds in a West Yorkshire derby by 1-0. So the table there is Horbury Town are top. They've played 34 games and have 76 points. Then come Wombwell Town, who have played 31 on 68. Wakefield, they're now played 30 games, so 4 games in hand on Horbury Town and are on 66. Then Brig and Durham District make up the playoff places. Ilkley and South Leeds just outside the playoffs in 7th and 8th at the moment, Lou.
And just one thing, speak about it week in, week out, and it'd be good to get the guys on from Wake, if I'm being honest. They're playing at Feather Rovers at the moment, but for an NCL Division 1 attendance, 347, outstanding.
Yeah.
Outstanding. They win their games in hand, the top of the league. That's how much we've closed the gap on Horbury, who were running away with this. Absolute hats off to Wakefield and Horbury because they've set the standard in this league.
Yeah, very much so. They had obviously a shaky start as well. Did Wakefield for the first couple of months of the season? Have really been on good form of late. And finally, in the non-league scene, Barnoldswick Town in the Northwest Counties, they got a 1-1 draw at home to Stockport Town. And in the First Division North, Route 1 Rovers, they were beaten heavily at home by Uxton Villa by 4-1. Steeton weren't in action. So as regards the tables for the northwest side of the pyramid, Barnoldswick Town in the Premier Division currently sitting 13th, nicely mid-table, probably too far off the playoffs, 12 off the playoffs, but also about 20 points or so above the bottom 2. And in the First Division North, as it is, Route 1 Rovers are in the bottom 3. They are on 19 points, and they are some points behind Thornton Cleverleys, who sit on 28, and Steeton just above them in 14th, who sit on 29. Any other business in the non-league scene that you want to bring up, Lou, before we finish off?
No, we're all good, all done and dusted.
Excellent. Leeds are currently still a goal behind at Bramall Lane, 67
Should have had a penalty.
No, don't
I mean, you
start with
sound
that.
like Jay now, Lou.
It's apparently
Wayne's
when you
gone?
I know his arm's a little bit close, but it stuck out a tiny bit as well. It's a penalty.
I haven't seen it. I've been concentrating on scores, looking at all the scores from elsewhere, to be honest. I'll kind of take your word for it, but nah, referee didn't give it. What can you do? Don't forget
I might
that
order a greasy chip butty if Sheffield win this.
oh, I could murder a greasy chip butty. Don't forget that Jay and Brownie will be on from around 10 tonight, Leeds United fans. If there's any of them watching, that is, given that I doubt there is, Leeds on telly. But we will, Jay and Brownie will be back with that one a little later on. From myself, from Gaz, from Lou and Downsy, thanks for joining me, gents. We'll be back next week with our usual Monday night roundup. But thanks for joining us here on the West Yorkshire Football Show.